What is up, everybody? Welcome back to yet another live stream, episode 121. Yes, that's 121 consecutive weeks of the Camera Junkie live stream. And as always, I thank you for taking the time and spending it here with me. If it is your first time, welcome. My name is Lewis, also known as Mr. Camera Junkie, and please be sure to introduce yourself in the chat so that you can get the warm Camera Junkie welcome. And with that being said, as always, let's see exactly who is in the chat right off of the bat. To see, we have John hanging out here saying hi to the camera crew. Welcome to the Saturday evening stream. Yes, thank you as always for taking the time. Kevin's also here saying hello to all and also reminding everyone to not forget to hit that like button if you haven't done so already. We also have Paul Duncan, Mr. Moderator. Thank you for taking the time. And yes, and today's topic right off the bat is the shutting down of DP reviews. So if you are a camera junkie, this you might have heard me talk about DP review once or twice on the channel. We got Richard also saying hello to everyone, saying what's up to myself. Thank you. How you doing, Sarkeezy? Paul also saying what's up to him. Okay. But yes, I don't know if you've heard the news. I was kind of in shock. You know, some people were thinking that this was like an April Fool's joke or something like that, especially how playful Chris and Jordan are. For those of you who are not familiar, on top of dpreview.com, we're also talking about dpreview.com, the YouTube channel. So the creators that I've had here on Cities Gall previously, DP Review, and the website that's been around for 25 years, 1998, is going to be shutting down within the next couple of weeks, which is sad news for camera junkies like myself, because they were one of the resources that I would use weekly on comparing cameras, especially to older cameras. So for instance, I have a Camera Junkie podcast that I talk about all things in the photography and camera world. And part of it is talking about particular camera bodies when they present themselves, lenses, so on and so forth. But I'm constantly looking up the specs to compare to different cameras that are already on the market, to see, depending on where you stand, if this is something that is viable for you, or if this is just, hey, great that the technology is there, but not really something that you need to go, and I guess do a fire sale of all of your equipment just to get the latest and greatest piece of tech. If you've been here before, you've heard me also mention upgrade your skills before your gear, and that's part of it, because if you were to be able to grow your skill set, the gear kind of becomes second place. And one of these places where I was able to really level up my knowledge to get those skills was dpreview.com. So they are one of the many resources that I would constantly tap into to get information, articles, insights, and their archive for the past 25 years is second to none. That's why they were such a big resource when it came to the photography world. And that's why I think this is gonna ripple on, because it's gonna be a bigger blow that we realize even right now. And I'll get to that in a little bit. That's just a little foreshadowing. But it's really sad. I was in shock when I found out, when I first saw Chris and Jordan's video on the DP Review channel, And I'm like, then it's a joke. But then I started to see more and more people talking about the subject, and then articles about Amazon shutting them down. And I really don't have any insight on the thought process behind the reasoning for shutting this down. But I guess it had to do with, like the bottom line, especially when it comes to gigantic corporations like Amazon. So I have some notes to go over. So I did do some research as far as bullet points. DP Review was launched in 1998 by Phil Askey in London, England, but just quickly within a couple of years was bought out at the year 2000 by Amazon.com. And that was when they were in their expansion phase, trying to get as much credibility in the online space as they were growing. So going to the fact that just 2 years into this website, it was already taken in by Amazon as far as their expansion. It has only grown by leaps and bounds in the past 23 years since that point. And that's where, for some of us who might have experience in, web hosting and knowing the back end work that has to do with it and the cost associated to an archive that size, that's where I really think that it just now came to a point where it was just like, the bottom line was the reason why they got rid of it. Once again, I really don't know, but being the fact that they were part of their expansion, and now Amazon is so big that they're just looking at every place to where they could cut corners, because the amount of traffic that I could imagine goes to that website daily is a cost that they are incurring. But what really leaves me scratching my head, and I would love to hear your thoughts on this, is they have a gigantic marketplace to sell the actual items that they're talking about on their website. So it's like hand in hand, you go from showing a camera, giving it its specs, giving you the information, articles behind it, its quality, and not only cameras, but we're talking about lenses and everything in the digital photography space, videography space, camera junkie space, right? All of that is part of what was embedded into, those articles, into the hard work from so many people for so many years that created that content that really has allowed not only myself, but I know I could just imagine countless people who have learned from that website and got a better understanding to then level up their skills, to upgrade their skills in their photography from articles and information that's found there. And now we've reached this tipping point where it really sucks that future generations are going to miss out. Now, I don't know how this works as well, because this is something that came to mind. Is like the Wayback Machine. I believe it's a web page that has like all old archive web pages and years of the internet. So, being able to come back to 2023 on a Wayback Machine and revisit the older information might be possible still, but the fact that we're not going to get that quality of information moving forward is where I see the real loss here, right? The future generations. Now, there's going to be a variety of different things that are going to pop up, obviously, right? Like, maybe it's iPhoneographyReview.com, right? Or something like that, right? Like phone photography or something like that, because maybe we're reaching a point where those are going to be the most dominant cameras in all spaces. But we're not there yet. And there's so many things that DP Review has been able to do throughout the years, like create the DP Review Awards, right? That's something that I researched here, and I'm like, oh man, that's right, that they give their like yearly reports on cameras and things like that. And there's so many little nuances to what they've been able to amass for so many years that's where I think that I'm still so like just disappointed in the fact that this is something that is gonna be taken away from us, and like I said, I don't really know. Hopefully it wasn't the lack of traffic that the web page is actually receiving. Hopefully it was the amount of traffic the reason why they took it down, because it wasn't generating as much revenue as it should have for the amount of like traffic that it would receive. So like cost to benefit ratio, and it dipped under the line where Amazon as a company just no longer is thinking, they're just thinking margins. So it's like this just fell under the margin, so now it gets the axe. And it's really unfortunate, because I guess this is where I'm gonna leave this topic and get back to you guys to see your thoughts. It's almost like make the most of your everyday, because the good old days are happening as we speak. Yeah, because we reminisce on the days when we were young, but then there's gonna be days in our futures where we're gonna reminisce on being able to go to dpreview.com and compare a new camera to your current item, because they had the database, they had the information, they have that. And we're losing a big resource. Now, like I said, they're not the only ones. There's a lot of information out there, and if it comes to the creators, Jordan Drake and Chris Nichols, they are also moving on to another website called Petapixel. And Petapixel is now going to be like hosting their YouTube content. So now they're going to be able to continue to do their traditions and things like that, but creating the content with Petapixel. And also to give you a little little history on those two individuals, they were kind of one of the newer acquisitions to DP Review, because they actually came from another YouTube channel called thecamerastore.com, and that's where they actually met and started creating content and started creating YouTube videos on that channel. And it was, I think it was like 3 or 4 years ago. Yeah, I think it could have been longer, but something within that range, where they actually left the camera store and were really ecstatic to now be creating content for the DP Review YouTube channel, because obviously it was like you're now being part of a much bigger operation, and the people that were working behind the scenes and also being part of Amazon is like kind of like a good thing to put on your resume, right? And now to see like 4 or 5 years down the road, like something like this could happen, and now we're all at a loss with, excuse me, water break. Okay. But yeah, that we're all at a loss with no longer being able to have such a detailed and intensive resource section for our photography needs. Now, I would love to hear your thoughts on this. or maybe your like first memory with dpreview.com if you have one, or your thoughts on how you see the camera industry moving forward. Someone can't remember right now off the top of my head had mentioned which are the camera companies that you think will survive, right? And that's kind of like a little tricky question because there's some companies that don't only do cameras. So even if like the majority of all cameras were to magically like that market, that industry would just kind of fail, so to speak. You would see companies like Sony still thrive because they're not only cameras. Yet you could see a company like Nikon that only does cameras, hypothetically. You know, they do a bunch of different optics and things like that, but that the majority is optics, is cameras, is, you know, imaging in one way or another. A lot easier for them to fail if we're seeing like a doom and gloom kind of future when it comes to full size digital photography. If, you know, if everyone really does kind of like, if the smartphones technology and cameras really do catch up to the quality that we have in our hands today. I don't think so until they're using the same type of sensors, right? And then you have like actual physical size of a lens, which I don't think is ever gonna go away, because I think we've all seen like these Instagram commercials where they're selling you like a telephoto zoom lens that looks like a tube 6 inches long that you have to now put on a tripod so that then you can put that onto your iPhone. And I look at that and I go, that's ridiculous, because even if you are able to get that zoom range, right, I can get a much better image with a camera and lens that's designed for it. And that's why I always feel like there's always going to be a marketplace for it, no matter how much this industry and systems change. What doesn't change is that there will always be a need for advertising, for marketing. And because of the marketing and advertisement needs, there will always be a need for imaging. So I think that will always have to take place. Oh, Aiden's poking at me. Gotta reset Aiden's entertainment so that I can do the live stream here and have fun with you guys. The boss man. So yeah, let me get back to the chat and see what you guys think about DP Review, or any information or some stories that you guys might have about it. So let's see. Okay, so Kevin here saying, hard to believe they are shutting the site down. Just the money that could be generated from all those backs is crazy. That's so true, but that's why I said before that I'm like scratching my head, because I think that was already in place, right? Like it just works hand in hand, like one hand washes the other, right? You can go directly basically from Amazon to a site like DP Review to check the camera, get the information, and if it's right for you, you'd go right back to Amazon to buy it. Because this is the one thing that people fail to recognize about the power of Amazon, is that they make it extremely convenient. You already have your credit card on file, and you have a user-backed kind of return policy, so that if anything negative were to happen, Amazon is on your side. let me give you an example. I just heard the latest podcast from Tony and Chelsea Northrup, and their latest installment, they're talking about like scams in the photography world. And the photography world, there are quite a few that you can find in used markets and things like that they address. But well, hold on. Let me see if I could explain this correctly. Nope. I have to be real with you. I lost my thread. I started reading something over here about the about their history, and I can't remember what was the point of me bringing up the Tony and Chelsea Northrup podcast. But going back to your question, Kevin, or to your comment, I do think that it's just crazy about the link backs, and I do feel like that the photography, and the website was working hand in hand. And yeah, that's about it. I really do scratch my head because I do think that it's just such a big part of the way that they generate sales on Amazon. So can't believe that I'm just like blank. That's a big big brain fart right there, because I read Amazon.com over here and I'm like, and forget it. Okay, Kevin once again says, so many great comparisons with so many specs that are easy to read and compare. Yeah, absolutely. And there's so much more to it, right? I think, because it's not only just the comparisons, that's just part of the database, but you're talking about the people who are now going to be without a job, right? Like the people writing the articles, the editors. I don't know. I just had a thought right now, completely random, like maybe it has to do also with all of this like AI cut downs, right? Where they feel that maybe something like that could be generated artificially. I don't know. I'm kind of in shock still, right? I'm like, it really does suck. But like I said, I guess what really does suck is for the future generations. A comment that I said before, and I'm going to repeat, is that make the most of your everyday, because the good old days are happening as we speak. And the reason why I thought of that was because we're constantly going back to where we were young and thinking that those were the good old days, and there will soon be days that we are going to come right back to this. And 10 years from now, we're going to have a conversation, be like, do you remember dpreview.com and all that and blah, 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 and how Amazon shut it down? Like, this is going to be a big, like, milestone in the photography realm, so to speak. That's how I feel. Hey, how you doing, K-Wall? Saying hey to the camera junkies. Thank you for stopping by. Also, Eric is here saying hello to friends. How are you doing, sir? All right, John over here saying having an iPhone camera is super convenient. It is. I do agree. Also, sharing the phone is easier, but never use Nikon Minolta. Oh no, excuse me. Let me correct myself. It says photos is easier, but I've used Nikon, Minolta, Canon, and now Sony, and each of those have given me more control and better images. Absolutely, but hindsight, right? These camera phones are getting really, really good. They are getting really, really good, and they're only gonna get better. So, and let's not even get into the Samsung scam. So let me know if you guys know any information about the Samsung smartphone moon scam. If not, I'll touch a little bit on it because I found it to be very funny. Oh, wait. No, let's not do that. Okay. Okay, John says, also, Amazon has directly benefited from purchases I've made over watching DP review videos and get the info before the purchase. Yeah, that's exactly what I mean. Like, that's the one hand washes the other. Like, I feel like that a majority of the sales that Amazon has gotten for cameras in the digital space, and even, but not only cameras, that's what I'm saying. Like, you're talking about memory cards, hard drives, like computers, everything that has to do with the creative space, right? All of that has to go hand in hand with what the top end creators are using, what they're recommending, what's available to them in the creative space for the past 20 years, 23 years. So that's where I just sit here and I'm like, man, next month we're no longer gonna have this resource, and it sucks. It does. This is where capitalism really does suck. I really do think that this is where you kind of say, like, they're too big to fail, right? And when you're looking at the bottom line and the margins that it has to do with it, this really, to me, it just doesn't make sense. I just feel like this is kind of like almost like an AI type deal, where the AI literally just put this in the category because the numbers didn't match and there was no logical thought behind this process to say, like, hey, you know what, even though it's right there on the cusp, this actually is kind of too important to too many people to let it just go by the wayside. And it has. And it has. And, you know, to give you another little tip, it's kind of weird, but it's funny that they were like, DP Review was like one of the few people who actually made it on Cities Gaw 2 times, because to give you a little insight of how I do Cities Gaw on a weekly basis is that depending on the topic at hand, I will go into my YouTube channel list of channels that I'm subscribed to, and I will select someone that hasn't been on the list before that, like I said, goes hand in hand with the topic. So if we were talking about Final Cut Pro, I'd try to bring on something specific to that. We're talking about photography or a particular brand, somebody that I follow or watch about that. And DP Review was one of the few that like made it on twice, because I've done so many of the Cities Gaws that they kind of slipped through the cracks, and I'm like, oh, they haven't been on there? Gotta put them on there because I use them for so many things. So I'm glad that I was able to put them on prior, but it's sad that that's no longer going to be a resource that's available to the people who follow Cities Gaw either. So, and talking about that, we can go to today's Cities Gaw. Boom. Channels that I think you should go and watch. And there we go. Boom. Ordinary Filmmaker. Yes, this is a friend of mine through the Friday night Peter Gregg live stream. He's the Ordinary Filmmaker. He's based out of Canada as well, and he does a lot of content around the rumors and the latest information on the camera like industry. So if you're kind of looking for that type of information that you used to get from DP Review, I will highly recommend you check out the Ordinary Filmmaker. He is very vigilant, and that's something that I give him extreme credit for, because if some news breaks out in China, you know, at 3 o'clock in the morning, there will be a video out shortly after, if not like the next morning, talking about it. And he's pretty consistent in constantly creating a lot of content when that information comes out, and he's definitely struck the iron while it's hot. So if you want to be pretty much up to date on a lot of different things, you can see he goes and he covers quite a different array of cameras from Lumix. But he's a Canon shooter. I believe he has the Canon R8, and is it the R8? Yeah, I think so. I think that's the one that he's had for a while. So yeah, this is Simon, the Ordinary Filmmaker. If you haven't checked his channel out, I highly recommend you do so. And he's this week's City God channels that I think you should go and watch. And actually, also to tie in his last live stream, if it's on there, his last live stream he actually did. I'll see if he puts it back up there.
Canon will be
he
announcing
actually,
the much anticipated.
Did that come out? Did that come through? Let's see.
Canon will be announcing the much.
Oh yeah, that totally came through. All right. All right. So, but yeah, he actually did an interview, a live stream with Jordan Drake, and he did it kind of like the day of, and I was able to see that live stream, and that's when I was able to like confirm that this wasn't a joke, you know. So scams ? I think that's what I was going for, but I can't put the thread together. I appreciate it, Paul. Thank you for trying to keep me on track, you know, but I really lost the thread of why I brought up the Tony Northrup. And I'll listen back to it and see exactly where I went off the rails, right? But hey, it happens. That's what happens with live streams, right? You're talking about something, you're just like, hey, you know what? No script. And when you go and chase a thread off somewhere else, totally derail the point. Not the conversation itself, but the point that I was trying to make, and I could not recover. But I do appreciate you, sir. All right, let's go back to the main shot here. All right. All right, guys. Well, I don't know if you guys have any other questions or like your thoughts on, you know, this itself. I know Kevin has shared his, but if not, I think that's going to be it for this week. Yep, it was a short one this week because, hey, still a little somber about the saddening news of shutting down of DP Review. But I gotta thank every single one of you for hanging out here with me, because even if I could be slightly, you know, down because of this news, you guys make it up tenfold. This live stream, as I always say, is the highlight of my week. It is the best part, and it is so much fun. So I can't emphasize how much this means to me. So thank you all always for hanging out here with me. If you haven't done so already, please be sure to hit the thumbs up button. You know, it is highly appreciated and it's absolutely free. And yeah, I don't think there's any news besides that. I'm working on some stuff for, you know, obviously this week I was able to knock out a lot of projects that were pending. So those are no longer pending. And now I'm going to try my best to hit, like, pedal to the metal, so to speak, on all the things that I want to accomplish for myself. As you can see, last week we started doing the podcast edit. So I'm going to be editing those. And you know what? That's a good topic to talk about before I close this out. Have you guys heard the news about YouTube podcasting? You know, I'm even wearing the shirt, Leap into Podcasting. So put it all into the universe. But if you're not aware, this past week, YouTube officially unveiled the podcast feature on YouTube Music. So let me hydrate. So now podcasting is officially on YouTube. And it did answer some of the questions that we had, which was how were they going to handle RSS feeds and stuff like that. And what it looks like is that they're not even going to worry about it. They're kind of doing their own thing. They might be reverse engineering the RSS feeds through the music channels, but they're literally implementing their own thing or their own type of podcast player through YouTube podcasting. And it's really cool because now the question that I kind of had presented to you guys before, which was, should I make a separate channel for the podcasts, is answered, which is no. It's all going to be taken care of. It's kind of going to be its own little category, almost like playlist or like YouTube Shorts. Once you go into the YouTube Music section and you find your podcast, you will have both the audio and the visuals running simultaneously, and you get to select the tab because it's running through the YouTube Music player. And it's really cool because you can have the video playing, and there's a toggle on the top of the screen which will basically bring it to the graphic of your podcast where it's audio only, which would be like if you're on your phone on the YouTube Music app and you're seeing it there, or if you actually want to see the video both on your phone on the YouTube app or on your computer, whichever way that you're using it, and you're able to, go 90 with your phone, or just put the small screen to actually have the visuals presented to you. So it's really interesting, and I think it's really gonna take certain aspects of, like, when you say, hey, if you're listening in right now, toggle over, on the tab on the YouTube player so that you can see what I'm talking about, because this kind of can't be spoken about and I need to show you specifically. And I think that's pretty cool because that will give it a whole different dynamic. And the way that YouTube is with everything that they take over, they're going to do it their own way. And, between you and me, I think it's going to dominate. It's like, why? It's not recreating the wheel, but sort of, right? Because the way that I see it is like, why are you going to go into an antiquated type of, uploading, because that will only benefit the old regime of podcasting when you're trying to establish the whole new generation of video podcasting, especially when you're a video platform. And I do think that there will be a way to reach the RSS feeds through the music side, because that's something that's already been available on kind of like the podcasting audio side. But even if it doesn't, the number one search engine, the number one way of discoverability, the number one way of doing everything is basically on YouTube. And this is the example that I'm going to give. YouTube Shorts. I believe as of last month, before the CEO change in YouTube, it was set at a record of 50, listen to what I'm telling you, 50 billion YouTube Shorts views a day. I will repeat. 50 billion with the B YouTube video shorts views a day on YouTube as of right now. And that's how far from just last year when they were like, oh, shorts and nobody knows what's going on with this, to 50 billion views a day today. So don't be surprised that the podcasts that are now blooming on the platform right now, and those of us, and I'm including myself, who are going to take advantage of this system right now when they're implementing, and they're going to start pushing it right through YouTube. Don't be surprised that those will be the big podcast come a year from now, and we'll be talking about, I'm not sure about the similar numbers, but comparative to other podcast platforms, I think they will pretty soon be dominating this space as well. And those are my thoughts on YouTube bringing podcasting to YouTube Music, because it still has the video aspect into it, and it's super cool. All right, so let me see what you guys have to say about that. Just Kevin saying, looking forward to exploring YouTube podcasting a bit more. Definitely. Well, you just heard my thoughts on it. And with that, everyone, I will thank you once again for hanging out here with me. A super chill weekend. I appreciate you all, as always, for taking the time. I hope you all have an amazing week. If you don't know, we do this every week without fail. 121 consecutive weeks in the books. And next week will be episode 122 of the Camera Junkie live stream. As always, take care of yourselves and each other. I love you all, and I can't wait to see all of your smiling, amazing faces next week. Take it easy, and I will see you then.